Hello and welcome to the Irish Pagan School YouTube channel. This is myself, Laura O'Brien. I'm an author and co-founder of the Irish Pagan School, and we're here to talk today about the werewolf in Irish mythology. And we do actually have quite a number of references. We won't be able to get to them all today, but throughout our medieval literature, we have absolutely pocketfuls of werewolf. I don't know where pocketfuls came from, but we've lots of references to the werewolf. So we're going to go through a few of them today. And we do have a whole class on the werewolf in Ireland, which I will link below if you want to go and find out more and get the exact references and all that good scholarship, academic type stuff. But for now, we are just going to go through a couple of them and just give you a flavor of where the wolf's howl has appeared in Irish mythology. So shapeshifting is a big theme in Irish mythology, as many of you probably already know if you're interested in the topic. We have everything from Tuatha Mac Carroll, who shapeshifts into a number of different animals through many different lifetimes, which some say is a reference to the ancient Irish belief of transmigration of the soul, or what's commonly known now as reincarnation, though we don't use that term because it's not from our culture. So we also have, of course, deities who shapeshift, such as the Morrigan, who turns in the Táin Bó Cúailnge, turns into eel form and heifer form and wolf form, actually. As we are working through, she goes against her great enemy, Cuchulainn, and does part of that in wolf form. But where we do see references in Irish mythology to werewolves or humans who go in wolf form or people who shapeshift, it's not quite the same as you would get in, I suppose, modern folklore or modern understanding of werewolf, modern media, really. There's no moon reference specifically, although we do have some cycles that we work with, particularly 7-year cycles. You don't have to be bitten by a werewolf. It's not passed that way. Generally, if people are werewolves in Irish mythology, we get, well, it's magical generally. We get curses, and we'll talk about some curses from saints. And there are also some ancestral traditions around or stories about ancestry that has passed on this ability to take the form of a wolf. So it is worth mentioning that some of this could be a mix-up. There are many mentions of warriors and connection to the warrior culture and the werewolf culture. And wolves and hounds are very similar. So anything that has coo in it would be hound related generally. And then Fuela or Fuelin or Fuelon, no, Fuelon might be different, but Fela certainly would be wolf form. So Fuel, usually anything with the coming from the root Fuel. So there is mention of warriors going wolfing, and I'll describe that in a second, and that's referenced as Och Fuela. And there's another term as well, which is Deberg. Now, these are old Irish terms, so the pronunciation I might not have down, so apologies for that, but it's D-I-Fada B-E-R-G. And that would translate, according to the Dictionary of Irish Language, the Old Irish Dictionary, that would translate as kind of marauding or pillaging. And seems to be, where it comes up in the material that we have, it seems to be almost like a rite of passage. And there were whole bands or troops of young men who would be known as a Fiann. So not just Fionn McCool and the Fianna. And in fact, in the Fionn McCool legends, there does seem to be a kind of a playing down of that whole marauding and pillaging and a playing up of the more heroic aspects. But Fiann bands were kind of roving bands of young men who would often act as mercenaries, so they would be hired in by various of the Gaelic lordships, but they would also, again, do that debarg. So they would be marauding or pillaging and would be a bit of a scourge on the countryside, particularly around winter, if they didn't get an overwintering in, with hosted by a lord or a tribe. So all of that being said, right, we'll get into the actual werewolf stuff as well now. So Conféil Conrecta is glossed. I haven't got the exact terminology, but again, it's all available in that class. If you want to go to the irishpaganschool.com, you can take a full class. But Conféil Conrecta shows up a couple of times in a couple of different forms, but in one particular gloss or definition, it's glossed as a woman in wolf's shape. And there's references to women who like to stray in the shape of wolves. So these are women who wouldn't be kind of helped, I suppose. They would be like on the name's not down, you're not getting in. If they needed help or support, they would be the women who like to stray in wolf's shape. So that's the Conféil Conrecta. And then I suppose the most famous werewolf stories, the kind of the urban legends, as John Carey has termed them, to a certain extent, would be the werewolves of Ossory. Now, Ossory is an old tribal land package, if you like, territory, I suppose, that would be where modern day Kilkenny and I suppose parts of Laois maybe would be, and that's where our modern county boundaries are. The term means people of deer, I believe, or comes from a term that means people of deer. So Osrig would be the people of the deer. And it shows up as early as 1188 in our famous friend Gerald of Wales, who was traveling around Ireland and wrote some rather fantastical tales, it must be said, but also I would say has captured some at least of there's seeds, there's elements of truth for what was well known in Ireland at the time, but maybe being retold in a bit of a fantastical or sensational or clickbaity kind of way. So we had clickbait in 1188 with Gerald of Wales. So he tells a story of a priest who's traveling from Ulster who comes across these people in wolf form, and they actually need the service. Well, he meets the man, I believe, and the man needs the services of the priest because his female companion is dying and needs last rites. Okay, so these are Christian people who are traveling around in wolf form. So he meets the man in the shape of a wolf, but it's a human voice and human intellect that is within this wolf's body. So the man is describing how a saint's curse, I can't remember the saint's name, but it would be a local saint, not a well-known one at all. This saint's curse from generations ago has been on the people of the area. And every 7 years, I think a couple, a man and a woman has to, they don't necessarily have to be a couple, but a man and a woman has to take the form of wolves and live out this 7-year cycle. So again, we don't have moon werewolf references, but we do have maybe this kind of cyclical nature. And then there is another story. Again, sorry, I don't have these sources now, but again, they're all there in that class. It's a really amazing class, and not taught by me or John, taught by one of our other teachers, Kathy. So there is a story of St. Patrick's curse, where he was trying to teach. He was trying to preach Christianity. He was on his mission to convert the pagans of Ireland to Christianity. And the group that he was preaching to were ridiculing him. And part of how they did this was they were howling at him like wolves. So this was humans who were howling at him like wolves. And he decided that he was going to pay them back for their disrespect. and basically said that they would be cursed then through their family lines to take the shape of wolves at certain times. So the last one that we're going to go into today is from the 1300s, and some people will be familiar with the Book of Ballymote. The story actually appears in two different manuscripts, but the Book of Ballymote would be one of them. So that would be from the 14th century, around the 1300s Common Era or CE. And it's from, I can't remember the Irish term for it, but it's from, translates as The Wonders of Ireland. And it's this story or this poem that goes through this Wonders of Ireland. And it does tell of people, families who are, they have this family ability to leave their bodies and go into wolves. And it kind of, for anybody who's familiar with Terry Pratchett, it kind of sounds like Granny Weatherwax's borrowing, right? Pratchett was definitely inspired by this, I think. As you know, all good fiction should be inspired by the real mythology. So here we have some Irish mythology, maybe making it into the legend that is Granny Weatherwax from Terry Pratchett. And they basically, they have their families warned that they need to leave their bodies, and when they're traveling in wolf form, their spirit or their essence leaves their bodies and goes into the wolves, and they can run with the wolves basically and then come back to their bodies. And they have their families warned to mind their bodies, because they're like akin to being asleep when they're traveling. And this to me sounds like journeying, and is a technique that we actually teach again at the Irish Pagan School, guided meditation journeying practice. So whether they're traveling as wolves in this world or the other world is unclear, but either way, this is a technique that we can still learn how to use, and would be part of maybe a modern shape-shifting practice. It is echoed as well in, there's a very strong tradition of old witch women who can turn into hares. Now this would be very much this world. And again, their consciousness kind of leaving their bodies and going into the hare. But then if anything actually happens, whether it's the wolves or the hares or anything, if anything happens to their forms, it actually translates to their bodies. So if you get injured while you're journeying, if you get injured while you're traveling in this way, your actual physical form will take on that harm or that damage. So again, there's many tales of both the wolves, the hares, people who were skilled in this technique. And again, it's why we at the Irish Pagan School are very careful about making sure that people can travel safely and get back to their bodies safely. You don't want to get stuck in another animal's form or wander off into the other world and get lost. That's how unexplained comas happen, perhaps. Who knows? So anyway, if you want further information on any of this, as I said, please go to the irishpaganschool.com. You can go to the all classes page or the all products page. Right down the bottom, you'll see a link for that. And you can search in there by topic, or you can use the search bar and you can find any amount of classes on guided journeying, on meditation practices, on the werewolf in Ireland and the werewolf in Irish mythology. So I hope that's been useful and interesting and engaging and entertaining for you, in part at least today. And I thank you for your time and your attention. And make sure that you're on our mailing list as well. There's a link below and you can sign up for free, and you will get all sorts of amazing resources and information and class details and discounts and sales and scholarship options and all of that good stuff. So make sure you're on the mailing list, you join the community, and we can keep in touch with you that way so you don't miss out. Okay, slán go fóill, and I will see you in the next video.